This video is only possible thanks to viewers like you. To support the channel and get more, go to patreon.com/optimisticduelist and subscribe. Link in the description. The following is a redacted version of my conversation with Kate Mitchell on the Perfectly Generic podcast. I had a blast on the show, and if you want to get up to speed on the most exciting and vibrant parts of the Homestuck fandom right now, you can't really do better than following her along. She's been interviewing people as distinguished as James Roach, the head musician for Hiveswap, and Austin and Heather, the minds behind one of the most popular MSPA fan adventures, Vast Error. I highly recommend checking out the full episode linked in the description along with the rest of her show. But I redacted our conversation for this video because what I really want to do with it is get you up to speed on the most important Homestuck news we've gotten in years. Andrew Hussie has officially stated that the Homestuck Epilogue is going to look more like a Homestuck sequel. I believe that statement speaks for itself, so I'll let our talk take it from here. There's timestamps in the description if you need them.
The Perfectly Generic podcast contains spoilers, occasional adult language, and Vriska. You've been warned. Wait, I forgot. I didn't come up with something clever to say at the start. I guess this is now the start of the episode. Welcome to the Perfectly Generic podcast. I'm Kate Mitchell. Guest this week is Optimistic Duelist. Hello, it is so good to have you on the show.
Hi, it's a pleasure to be here.
So, this week in Homestuck, we got fed a lot this week. First off, Viz Media released the cover of Homestuck Book 4 and gave us a date. Also this week, Toby Fox dropped a nuclear bomb on us on Halloween, Deltarune. This week we also got Andrew talking to the media at length for the first time in a while. In a Washington Post interview, it was a fantastic article, and Andrew released through What Pumpkin the full unedited transcript of that interview, which was about 4,000 words of answers. And that's like the meat of this episode, because I loved that interview so much, and so we're just gonna go like bit by bit through it. Yeah, and so there's also a some very important discussion of what's next for Homestuck in this interview, and obviously that's something that you and I have both been Epilogue optimists for a while. It's been sort of core to my reading of the work and the structure of it, that like it was intended, like so many of these beats, especially ones that people are unsatisfied with, were like intended to set up what's next. And there's very obvious things in Homestuck that are just like, it feels like you're sort of tossing the ball up into the air and getting ready to serve it. There are many stories which are concluded thoughtfully, do have complete arcs, but the story that we see at the end, it feels almost like an uneasy truce. Like the situations the characters are in Earthsea and the happy ending that many of them got, it's still built on that unsettling fact that there's still so much we don't know, and there's still so much that we know will happen that hasn't happened yet. Exactly.
It's worth mentioning that, like, this is a scenario we've been in before with Hussie. I'm not sure how well known it is, but, like, Problem Sleuth's ending was originally, like, fairly unsatisfying until the epilogue for that came out, which was generally regarded as, like, successfully tying up all the loose ends and, like, delivering, like, the final satisfying conclusion to the narrative. Mm-hmm. But there was, like, an ending before that people felt cheated by. So this just seems to be how Hussie do with ending his stories, especially since the epilogue seems to be a bit more than an epilogue. So in the unedited transcript of the Andrew Hussie Washington Post interview, he utters the phrase sequel himself. He says sequel or post-canon content is what the epilogue is going to be. Like, it's going to address the events that follow after the end of the story. And it's something like a full-blown sequel, which is interesting in light of his other interviews, because he's been doing interviews with the other books, and Barnes & Noble, I think it was, he referred to Homestuck as an anime, And with another interview, he was asked how he felt about Homestuck having ended, and he just refused to validate the premise of the question and was like, Homestuck never ends. The ride never ends. So at the beginning, around Act 7, I wasn't sure if, the end of the epilogue was going to represent like a formal end to the story and we wouldn't really see the characters after that. But since I'm like pretty sure that if we're not getting like a follow-up Homestuck anime through Hussie and Viz Media's partnership, we're getting something about as ambitious.
Does Homestuck get better? Well, I mean, if it hasn't gotten better, maybe it won't at this point, but there's always a chance that it could get worse. So that's something to look forward to.
Right. Like the statement, like the press release when Viz acquired Homestuck specifically mentioned this wasn't just for book publishing. The deal was partially because of Viz's experience putting together many different types of multimedia projects.
And like, there's something to be said for the fact that Viz Media is a manga publisher, technically, not an animation publisher. But that's still a ton of connections. You gotta understand, like, the way that Homestuck is, like, crafted is perfect for introducing people who have nothing to do with Homestuck to the world now. Specifically now, because Earthsea is set up like a superhero universe, right?
Yes, absolutely. It looks like, I don't think there is going to be a strict ending. I think, especially with this new relationship with a major publisher, like, there is a world where, multiple, like, concurrent superhero universe style stories can be told at the same time. Something that I think was maybe given a bit of a trial balloon on the Snapchat before that, but just like a little test of what that content could be like.
Exactly. And Homestuck has a lot of built-in appeal for like an anime style project, but it also is attuned to Western sensibilities and American sensibilities in a way that not all anime necessarily is. So for example, the idea of having these characters who are like actually adults now and are just like all friends and have established relationships, having the kind of fan service type stuff that anime likes to do, but done with the attention to detail and like the care for the characters that I know Homestuck is capable of. That's actually a really exciting idea for me, and I think it would be for a lot of these Western markets once they see it, Yeah,
absolutely. And also I should note that, like, while Viz does primarily publish manga and books, they do have the Viz production arms where they license a great deal of anime. They also have a streaming relationship with Hulu and have financed and developed a couple of films. And so, I think that those who are optimistic and excited for what's happening next in the Homestuck universe have a lot of reasons to feel that way. And so good interview. Good job, dude. Thanks for giving me stuff to talk about this week.
No kidding.
Yeah. And so I did want to get, before we got into our listener questions, I did want to talk to you, but the meat, candy, vegetables, like trinary of Homestuck storytelling was sort of teased in the book 3 author's notes and was sort of set up. And it's something that I think is really fundamental to the work and, has been a sort of subject of meta for a very long time, which it turns out was pretty close to spot on. And I'm going to read an excerpt real quick, and then I want to get your thoughts on, like, the meat candy binary. I think this one marks the start of Homestuck's trend thereafter, and this is from the Book 3 author notes, of dropping exceptionally violent, high-octane, game-changing animations out of nowhere. There are so many like this from now on, right up to the end of Act 5. Only then does the number sort of taper off. But from this point, I just sort of started shoveling more and more red meat into the story's maw. This stretch is where I was starting to get a feel for this type of sensationalistic storytelling content as something I'd later code, mostly for my own internal purposes, as meat, in the meat-candy binary of storycraft theory. I really shouldn't talk about this yet, though. It's too soon.
What the hell does "it's too soon" mean, Hussie? Just give me the meat, for lack of a better word.
I think what that means, I think what "it's too soon" means is...
Huge thanks go out to my patrons for making this video possible. If you want to help support the channel and come join us at our awesome and growing Discord community, feel free to join us for as little as $1 a month. You can also find me on the r/Hiveswap Reddit and Discord. That's all for now, so thank you again, and as always, keep rising, and hey, thanks.